I mean, I'm always excited about that, but I really want to welcome you into that excitement with me. So a lot of those themes will be coming through in the first hour of the show, and also that being part of our Agri Stories of Africa, of course, where we look at what's been happening, any interesting news, where we look at the effects of global geopolitical dynamics and the shift and how that influences food security to food technology, and of course greening projects that will filter into us talking about that just before 1 p.m. in Central African time. Just after 1, I thought it very important to address issues around foot and mouth disease with a good friend of the show that we haven't had on in a minute, but it's always just so good to have a conversation with Dr. Wanjau, who is a livestock farmer, focusing particularly on cattle farming, dairy production, but he's also a veterinarian. So he's going to be talking to us and answering all our frequently asked questions around foot and mouth disease, from what it actually is to the spread of this virus, how to contain it. And I think for anyone that's been in the South African region or surrounds, as it were, you would know of the recent issues around foot and mouth disease in South Africa, and how the disease then was managed and was able to be contained in various parts of the region, but also how that then affects business, how that affects meat and dairy production, etc. So all of those questions coming through, I think this affects anyone. It doesn't matter where on the African region you are. So much of the show will be concentrating on those big themes. So it is wonderful to have you here. Thank you very much for joining in. My name is Mmatsheko Mosito, and I will be bringing you all things agriculture until 2 p.m. in Central African time. A pleasure to have you join us. Please audio stream on channelafrica.co.za. You can check us out on a satellite as well. We are on channel PAS10 across the African region, channel 802 on the DSTV audio bouquet. Otherwise, we are streaming live audio visual on Facebook and YouTube. Happy Sunday.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons à présent dérouler notre tapis rouge pour accueillir notre personnalité du jour, l'artiste chanteur Sheki Frey, qui est en ligne de Guinée avec nous.
Je suis un artiste guinéen, un créateur, un styliste, et je fais un peu ce qui plaît à mes fans. Voilà, c'est un peu ça. On a beaucoup de genres de trucs à faire, mais bon, pour le moment, on est basé un peu sur le rap.
D'accord. À quelle période de votre vie avez-vous commencé à vous intéresser à la musique, Sheki?
Bon, je crois pas qu'il y ait une période, parce que moi, je suis un mélomane depuis mon petit âge.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Welcome to Planting the Seed with Mmatsheko Mosito on Channel Africa.
On Channel Africa, the African perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Kuleni, and we are very happy to be here. So join us. Hello there, my name is Mmatsheko Mosito, and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time.
Hey guys, Tebogo Kuleni here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Lepuleni, and we are very happy to be here. So join us. Hello there, my name is Mmatsheko Mosito, and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time.
Hey guys, Tebogo Lepuleni here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Lepuleni, and we are very happy to be here. So join us. Hello there, my name is Mmatsheko Mosito, and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time.
Hey guys, Tebogo Lepuleni here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Lepuleni, and we are very happy to be here. So join us. Hello there, my name is Mmatsheko Mosito, and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time. John Arcadius coming through with Akli, and this is a Beninese coming through with really wholesome music as we talk wholesome things on our agricultural program that is planting the seed. You can hashtag that, just by the way, and let's have a conversation on Twitter, as I love to call it, our suggestion box, where you can really drop all kinds of ideas our way and we will be able to pick it up. So it's at Channel Africa 1 on Twitter. Use the hashtag planting the seed or planting the seed CA so we can pick up and follow the conversation with you. All right, let's begin with our agri stories of Africa. This is just where we look at what's relevant and what's worthy to speak about and cover as we look at agriculture and its supporting fraternities. So as global geopolitical dynamics shift, Africa continues to recalibrate its economic partners with Russia following two high-profile Russia-Africa summits. Cooperation in the area of food security emerged as a key theme, and Moscow pledged to boost agricultural exports, as it were, to the continent of Africa, especially grain, poultry and fertilizers, while African leaders welcomed the perspectives, the prospect of improved food supplies. Yet, despite the warm rhetoric and symbolic gestures, this cooperation raises deeper concerns. Africa's continued resilience on food imports, particularly from Russia, risks reinforcing infrastructural dependency at a time when many nations are trying to prioritize agricultural self-sufficiency. Very, very important. So by the year 2026, some Russia's early food security pledges may quietly recede as Africa increases to adopt import substitution policies and intensify domestic production. The path forward lies in rethinking the Russia-Africa agricultural dynamic, shifting from dependency towards more resilience, more locally driven food systems, as it were. So let's look at achieving the African Union's goal of ending hunger by the year 2025. So this is, of course, global target of zero hunger by the year 2030. And this one remains significant considering the challenges that we are faced with here on the African continent. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, despite continued government efforts to enhance domestic food production and distribution, only 4% of arable land is currently being cultivated. So food access remains constrained by inadequate infrastructure and stark imbalances between supply and demand, leading an estimated 455,000 people in food and nutrition insecurity. To address these challenges, I beg your pardon, the United Nations Economic Commission for Food in Africa, Economic Commission for Africa, ECA as it's known, through its sub-regional office for Eastern and Central Africa, conducted a fact-finding mission in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade. This was held between the 30th of June and the 4th of July this year in Brazzaville and in Pointe-Noire, with a mission that is aimed to explore how e-commerce and digital tools can actually accelerate matters of food trade and improving access, particularly to vulnerable communities. So with all of that said, I think let's just check in with Techno Brain and check in with the business development leader of this particular organization. His name is Eric Humphrey Omondi, and he talks widely about the year 2050 and the fact that the world population will be at about 9.2 billion. By the, when we look at the fact that there is still an under cultivation of food, as it were, in food systems. So in this clip you're about to hear, he will be sharing some in-depth insights on Techno Brain's digital agricultural solutions for food sustainability.
Now, looking at the world population at the moment, the world population is about 7.5 billion as at 2015. And if you look at what we have in terms of the acreage, the land that is ready, that is being cultivated, is about 1.4 billion hectares. Now, looking at in the next probably 25 years, by 2050, the world population is going to be about 9.2 billion. But the acreage of land that is going to be cultivated remains at 1.4 billion hectares. What does that mean? The countries in Africa and the world as a whole must then find a way to bridge the gap in terms of food security, because you're going to have more mouths to feed with the same output that we are having. So what we must therefore do in the entire world, and specifically in Africa, is to find ways and means to increase crop yield so that we have enough food to feed the entire population. As a company, Technobrain, we therefore have to ask ourselves, how can technology help? Because in the current world that we are living in the digital world, in the digital age, technology is everything, and it must be seen as an enabler, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in other forms of businesses across all sectors. So having asked ourselves this kind of question, then we've come to appreciate the fact that we can actually be able to use technology, leverage on the technology that we have to give certain insights. So what Technobrain has done in conjunction with Microsoft Corporation is to come up with a digital agriculture platform. What are we talking about in terms of digital agriculture platform? It's a platform that we are going to use to collate data from different sectors, different types of data, that then we are going to use using artificial intelligence to analyze, to give different insights to the farmers. One of the reasons why we have very low crop yields, especially when we're talking about smallholder farmers, is because they don't know what type of crops that they're supposed to grow, when they're supposed to do that. Why? The major reason is because they depend on rainfall. When the rains start forming, that is when they start preparing their lands. But what we are saying, therefore, as an organization, that we can leverage on technology and give insights to farmers using two different formats, either through SMS or through a voice platform. That is, we can call them and advise them. But what are we looking at? 4 things. 1, what to grow in terms of the types of plants. When to seed. In terms of, so what to grow, basically we are looking at the planning process in terms of preparing the land, in terms of the type of techniques that we are supposed to use. At the end of the day, the bottom line is we are going to have an increase in crop yields.
All right, that is the voice of Eric Humphrey Omondi, and he is a business development leader overall, but of course, speaking here in his capacity as a leader at TechnoBrain. And we're looking here at, just him sharing in-depth insights as to how TechnoBrain as a digital organization is going to be incorporating agricultural solutions on the African continent for food sustainability, is how I want to say that. Thank you very much for staying with us. We're 23 minutes into the midday hour. All right, so I think when we look at the vision of one of my favorite African women of all time, the late great Professor Wangari Maathai, who was a Kenyan activist. She was just one with the trees. She, came up with all kinds of movements. I think one of her most successful ones, and one that ultimately became a legacy, was the Green Belt movement, which really gave rural women in Kenya an opportunity to earn a living by planting trees. She planted millions of trees since 1975. And when I see people trying to come up with all kinds of innovative ways to regreen the African continent and the world, it just makes me all the more excited. So there's an international tech company I want to tell you about. They are using seed-firing drones to restore the world's forest, planting thousands of trees in diverse and remote landscapes at 150 times the speed of traditional methods. So every year we lose around 10 billion trees around the world, with catastrophic consequences for climate and for biodiversity, as it were. So can these smart sky trackers actually, or tractors as they're known, sky tractors, can they help us actually regreen the planet? Well, the woman in the clip you're about to hear is really going to break down this entire process. It's very fascinating.
The scale of what we're going to do is one which is going to regreen our Earth. We'll be able to see the ecosystems that we've restored from space. We need to use technology to scale up our restoration efforts. And the scale we're talking about is tens of billions of trees every year. It's a new step change in the way that we're thinking about global restoration. As an engineer, we can use all our innovation and all our ideas to leave this world in a better place than how we found it. The challenge that we're tackling is a complex one, and working with a team of passionate engineers, plant scientists, drone operators, we came up with this idea to use automation and digital intelligence to plant billions of trees. We, as humans, invented the chainsaw, and yet we didn't invent the equal technology to then restore and plant that tree as quickly as we could chop it down. We need that same level of innovation and dedication on the solution of restoring our ecosystems. By combining digital intelligence with automation, we're able to combine the right species at the right location. And when we upload that into the drone, it just goes out, follows that path, and plants those trees where they're needed. What we do is put the seed into this pod that's biodegradable, that has all the nutrients it needs, so that when it gets shot into the ground, it has a fighting chance to grow into a big, strong, healthy tree that we can climb in 20 years' time. If we don't restore our ecosystems, we're losing out on productive soil and the clean air and the cleaning of the water and the pulling down of carbon. We're losing this opportunity, which we have right in front of us. The scale of land degradation today has gone too far. We can no longer just rely on traditional methods to restore the land. We have to increase the rate. And we have a target of planting 500 billion trees. There's a saying that goes that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. We have this opportunity now, and we need to act today.
The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. Right now, this is the time to plant a tree. I'm so inspired by that story, and but I have a lot of questions about this seed firing drone, how it works. Just looking at all kinds of things. I have so many questions around looking at the various geographies and how do we plant trees that will be long lasting, and what does this mean for the next 20 years, the next 50 years, the next 100 years, when we look at really growing sustainable and healthy trees that will be here to outlive us all. Because that is the point, and that is the lesson that Wangari Maathai left us with, is that we're not planting trees for ourselves. When you plant a tree today, it's not going to be for you. It's most likely not going to be for your children now. In this current lifetime, it will most likely be for your grandchildren, your great grandchildren that will be here to see the tree in its full glory. So it really is just such a big job, and there are many big beautiful themes and spiritual elements to this work. So we have more questions. Perhaps our next mission is this tech company and get them on the show so we can have a bigger conversation. So because we're so inspired by the projects around seed firing drones and restoration rather of world's forests, as well as planting thousands of trees, there is a very interesting project. In fact, we've covered the work of this particular permaculture instructors before on our show, but we want to have him back. And this time he journeyed a little bit earlier in the year, journeyed with the UN World Food Programme to Niger and to other parts of the African Sahel to really see a wonderful Great Green Wall of Africa projects that's happening, where they are regreening some of the most barren land you have ever seen. I mean, it's extraordinary when you see the visuals. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we return from the musical break, I want you to log on to our Facebook page or our YouTube and actually see this particular video as narrated by permaculture instructor Andrew Millison, who is just incredible in terms of storytelling, and his earth stewardship deserves all the awards we could possibly think of. So we're going to show you the entire video as, of course, borrowed from his YouTube channel, but I really want you to see the extraordinary visuals of where the barren land was before and where it is now, and what is possible for the future. So that is coming through as we continue with themes of regreening the African continent after this.
We are reviving the culture in agriculture with Planting the Seed every Sunday on Channel Africa.
Bengicela nje kini Ndingayilabulile ndaba Ndingayilabulile ndaba Abantu ababili Oh ngithi ungalibalwe dalo Ngathi ngizokuthekela ibhanoyi Timomomo Sawanyathela amadimoni Ebafethu ngithe yambe ngelozi Timomomo Oh ngithi ungalibalwe dalo Ngathi ngizokuthekela ibhanoyi Timomomo Sawanyathela amadimoni Ebafethu ngithe yambe ngelozi Phela lona ngamthola ngamthatha ngamubeka enhlizweni yami ukonondaba banejelas Phela lona ngamthola ngamthatha ngamubeka enhlizweni yami ukonondaba banejelas Ekujuleni kothando Kushaya oluncane uvalo Ukhona ngqongqozayo Ngabe nguwe sandwa Ekujuleni kothando Kushaya oluncane uvalo Ukhona ngqongqozayo Ngabe nguwe sandwa Awulena imbi yothando Awulena imbi emiswa Bengicela nje kini Ndingayilabulile ndaba Ndingayilabulile ndaba Abantu ababili Bengicela nje kini Ndingayilabulile ndaba Ndingayilabulile ndaba Abantu ababili Osandweni lethu leminyaka Angisoze ngaretire Angisoze ngaretire Mina kuwe ngizostaka Osandweni lethu leminyaka Angisoze ngaretire Angisoze ngaretire Mina kuwe ngizostaka Loma bezangu kustivayita Khululeka ngosukwara Soqala phansi so rewinda Imizwa yakho ngizoyimasaja Loma bezangu kustivayita Khululeka ngosukwara Soqala phansi so rewinda Imizwa yakho ngizoyimasaja Awulena imbi
The languages that unite a billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile.
The restoration of the world's forests and planting thousands of trees in diverse and remote landscapes. Well, I thought we would check in with permaculture instructor Andrew Millison, who journeys with the UN World Food Programme to the country of Niger in the African Sahel to see an innovative land recovery project with the Great Green Wall of Africa that is harvesting rainwater, increasing food security, and also rehabilitating the ecosystem. If you can, watch the story on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Here it goes.
Welcome to one of the largest scale land restoration projects on the planet. Before this work, people relied on food aid just to survive. But 10 years ago, a vast barren wasteland began to transform, and now 500,000 people are feeding themselves from this land. So could this work be the key to ending hunger in Africa and beyond? Let's find out. I'm traveling in the Sahel of Africa with the largest humanitarian agency on Earth, the United Nations World Food Program, the first responders to hunger in war zones and disasters. But what I came here to see is the mind-blowing work they're doing to actually solve hunger by fixing the underlying problem. Because when soils blow away and the land desertifies, people can't feed themselves. But what I'm witnessing here is the repair of soils and water across Africa at a scale that I never imagined possible. This is Africa's Great Green Wall, where a massive strip of trees is being planted across the continent to hold back the Sahara Desert. But the thing is, these places I went to are not places that just anyone can visit. Access is tightly controlled. But the WFP works wherever there's hunger in the world. So they invited me along on this mission to tell this critical story that almost no one knows about. And in this 4-part series, I'm explaining the details of some of the most important work of our time. We are here in Niger, Africa, known as Niger. In this nearly 5 square mile block of land restoration, 5 different villages planted about 100,000 trees, put in about 20 tons of grass seed, and we can see the land is starting to come back to life. But will the plants survive? The key is to make sure they get enough water. But that's not easy to do in a desert because this region has what's called the drought flood cycle. We have 9 dry months. The land becomes parched. And when the rains finally do come, the rain can't soak in. And it rushes down and it creates flooding in lowlands. But in the Sahel, we find an age-old water harvesting structure called the half moon. This simple structure has all of this capacity to store this water and hold this water until the water soaks down into the ground. There are a lot of different variations on these half-moon structures, and which one you choose depends on what your end goal is. Are you creating a forest, or a grassland, or a millet growing area? And how well do the soils hold or drain water? But the basic idea is that the half moon's laid out on contour and it's dug so it intercepts the water flowing down slope during heavy rains. There are deep pits dug inside and outside of the half moon called zai pits, which collect organic matter that blows or flows into the pits, and ultimately they allow for the deep soakage of rainwater into the ground. Oftentimes a tree is planted, as well as grasses and other seeds that germinate with the rains. Birds and wind bring in more seeds, and the half moon becomes a concentration point for water, nutrients, plants, and animals. The ecosystem grows and life returns. It's astoundingly simple, but how does it work in practice? This site is just 1 year old, and this site is the same design, but 8 years old. We've got the rows of half moons with the trees planted in them, and now the trees are growing up. They're beginning to form a canopy over the ground. We see the grasses, we see the ground covered, and even now we have water in these half moons.
So here you see this half moon. This is still the water at this stage, still harvesting a lot of water. We have different local species and a lot of grasses. It's good animal feed. This shade, this temperature, you already have 5 to 8 degrees less compared to the places that are without treatment. This is one of the best ways to improve food security, because at the end of the day, this is a food basket in the making, but also nourish the land that nourishes people.
You must be wondering just how this restoration creates food. You see, when land's restored, it produces the grasses that feed livestock, which means people have milk to drink and meat to eat. The native Sahel trees produce leaves and fruits that can be eaten by the tough camels and goats who browse the thorny branches in times of need during the long dry season. The trees shade, they hold the soil, they soak in water, they nourish livestock. What I'd seen so far looked promising, but it's a pretty young site that hasn't fully developed. I couldn't help but wonder, is a system like this really enough to end hunger? To find out the truth, I needed to visit the very best site they could take me to near the southern border with Nigeria. The border is porous and there are militant groups that sometimes cross over, so we needed a military escort. But visiting this mature site was critical to seeing the full extent of what is possible in this kind of restoration work. What you see behind me was once a barren wasteland with compacted hardpan where the water was rushing quickly off, not soaking in, no organic matter, no plants, no trees, and now we see a dramatic transformation of this landscape. When we look at satellite images from the last 7 years, we can see that the area of bare exposed soil has literally dropped to zero. This land has fully recovered its capacity to hold water and grow biodiversity. And that means the potential for growing food is huge. That is so clear that the government of Niger is all in for this mega restoration. And I got the inside scoop directly from the chief forest ranger of the state of Maradi. He took me on a thorough tour of the site and pointed out all kinds of fascinating details, including some pretty remarkable ripple effects of the restoration work on the greater region.
Donc, et vous voyez, le niveau de régénération contribue vraiment à la concrétisation de la grande muraille verte au Niger.
So what I learned was, since we are at the edge of the Sahara Desert, this area is really affected by strong hot winds coming from the desert. This can really dry out the landscape. But this site's continuous tree canopy actually breaks the force of those drying winds. The point is to actually block the expansion of the desert. Niger is one of the hottest countries on the planet. The temperatures are significantly lower in these forested areas. And it's not just deep in the interior of the sites where you have all these trees, it's also the edges of the sites. We're seeing the same temperature effects. This whole project has become a biodiversity net. All sorts of seeds are blowing in, birds are attracted, they're bringing other seeds. Right now we're here in the 3-month wet season. It looks lush and green. You can see all of this fodder. You can imagine the animals becoming fat. But the critical function of this system is really in the dry season. 9 months of the year, this is dry, when there's just not a lot out there. So this diverse perennial polyculture here provides types of foods that can be harvested in the dry season. There are different yields that grow here even during the dry season. They're harvesting plants for culinary purposes, for medicinal purposes. We think of the Great Green Wall as stopping the expansion of the Sahara Desert, but it's actually so much more than that. The Great Green Wall is actually rebuilding the ecological matrix of a region. And when we start to see the effects at scale, like this large site and the 528 other Great Green Wall sites in Niger, we actually see the restoration of the ecological fabric of this region. Just within this 800-hectare site, there are 3 million cubic meters of water that have soaked into the ground here instead of running off. And 15% of that water is actually soaking into the deep aquifer and regenerating the permanent water table. The actual effects on people's lives is a very tangible thing. We traveled to a new garden in the nearby village to see the real-life effects of a regenerated water table.
Over time, the water table has risen and there's water available, allowing for production pretty much to take place all year round. In this area where we are, this is just a 1.5 hectare market garden site, one of 9. Communities here are now able to produce crops in these gardens because they're pumping water from the ground, water that has been improved from the rising water table due to the restoration activities that have taken place elsewhere. Before this activity, 9 out of every 10 children that were tested were malnourished. What we saw earlier in the market garden, the community is able to produce a variety of diverse nutritious foods, including vegetables and fruits, which are then also used in their local diets, contributing to a better nutrition for the community and lessening malnutrition for their children and for themselves.
Over the last 5 years in Niger, an average of 3 million people per year were food insecure and needed food aid. But in that same time period, these resilience projects have gotten 500,000 people off of long-term food assistance. Let that sink in for a minute. 500,000 people are being fed from the 528 resilience projects in Niger. So this is obviously working on a lot of levels. But the big question is, how do we scale this up to the place where it can actually end regional hunger? In Niger, in the last 10 years, the World Food Program with the government and partners have restored about 300,000 hectares. When you do this type of land treatment, you're actually helping areas downstream because this water is soaking in. Then you also get this incredible wind protection effect. So for every hectare that you restore, you actually affect 3 times that amount of land. So the 300,000 hectares really is more like 900,000 hectares. Now, Niger is a huge country. The Sahel is a massive area. So this is still just a fragment of what needs to happen here, right? We're beginning to see a scale of solution that matches the scale of the problem.
Walking through this, you can imagine that you're walking through the Great Green Wall. The Great Green Wall is the possibility of transforming desert lands, degraded lands into food baskets. Now the vision is how we can collectively put all hands on deck and make this regeneration in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Sahel, in Niger, an unprecedented game changer.
The World Food Program supports these projects in a lot of ways, including equipment, training, food, and money for the people doing the work. This helps to stabilize the community while growing their natural resources.
We can do this together with our partners. The government of Niger, they have taken resilience as their strong vision to transform rural areas in the country. This is very important within the context of Niger in terms of the concept of the land becoming the nourishing mother of the population.
Nous avons voulu, en tout cas, que nos actions rentrent dans le cadre de ces actions de la Grande Muraille Verte.
It's basically saying that as WFP, we need to recognize that we can play a catalyst role, we can play a supporting role, but the biggest role and the biggest achievement is what actually communities are able to do by themselves. We really need to be engaged and motivated within the vision of the Great Green Wall. It means also a Great Green Wall against hunger.
No matter where you are, Channel Africa is always with you.
tu prendras de l'âge, eh bien tu comprendras ce message. De l'ami de ton pèlerinage, et tu le reconnais par son plumage.
12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu. Getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tebogo Likweleni and Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Tame Ngubeni talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique with Joel Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Maria Mokumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Hotlines with Shailen Dikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Hey guys, so it's about 30 minutes before we have to go onto the show and go live, and we're just having our own little briefing session with the team. We've got our producer in the background, Mmatsheko. We've got my amazing co-host Mmatsheko Mosito.
Also, I'm not amazing.
We've got Mmatsheko that side, and we just just getting our ducks in a row for the show. Once we go live, there's no turning back. You make mistakes, you make them on air, but we try our best to prepare and ensure that we don't do that when we go on. And when we do, and we laugh about it, guys, we're only human. But this is how it looks like when we're just getting ready for the show. Enjoy. Here we go. Mix. Let's go. Come on. Let the creative juices flow.
The tree, what's at the bottom of it?
The root.
Thank you. If I'm not excited, like I'm just sitting around, I have nothing to do.
Bored.
Thank you. If it's not mist, it's mist. If it's not mist in the morning, you can't see the road. It's like a cloud.
Bright and early in the morning.
Like
sometimes your brain experiences.
It rhymes with dog.
fog.
Thank you. I don't know this one.
This is what guys. Hi guys, come on.
What is this? When I'm doing this, thank
shooting.
you. Yeah, no, yeah. You're so
funny.
Thank you.
Alright.
Nice and easy, clean. Don't forget what caught your eye at 22.
Yes.
And then, yeah, we're good.
Fantastic.
23, my love.
Oh, okay.
Show me your name on it.
Intro ile. Yeah.
Go. Coming to you all the way from the Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, this glorious Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, if you have DSTV, it's 802 OpenView, channel 628. Download the SABC Plus app so you can take us with you wherever you go. Good afternoon to you, Mmatsheko. How are you doing this afternoon?
My dearest, I am happy that you got the memo that this show is wearing black today. Our social media specialist is wearing black.
Excellent.
Our madam producer is in black. You are in black. I'm in black. I love it for us.
All black.
All black.
We actually need to do a photo shoot.
Actually,
After the
a
show.
group photo.
A
Yeah,
group photo.
with all black everything. Hello there, my name is Mmatsheko Mosito and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are in the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African Time.
Hey guys, Tebogo Kuleni here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African Time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Kuleni, and we are very happy to be here, so join us.
Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda, as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tebogo and Mmatsheko Mosito. Tamengo Bene talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique, with Joël Muteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Maria Mokumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some Lucifer knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Hotlines with Shailen Dikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Right, coming up after the news at 9 o'clock, we have On the Move with Palisa and Benjamin. Good morning, Palisa.
Morning, Peter. How are you?
Always fabulous. Thank you very much indeed.
Doing good. Well, let me tell you a story, Peter. If you look, in fact, just outside this window, right, so you can see the street right next to us. There's a street like coming through, a residential street coming this way. Back in varsity, I went to the University of Johannesburg, the Bunting Road campus on our right, and there's the Kingsway campus on our left. A friend of mine and I went to the library. We couldn't find the book we wanted, so we walked to the Kingsway campus, to that library. Got there, found what we needed, and then walked down through this residential area. And as we were about to reach like a few meters just before the SABC here where we are, we got mugged by two guys. And we got mugged in front of a group of men doing construction in one of those residential houses. They just watched it happen, and everything happened. The guys took our phones and they ran off, got in a car, shoot. We're obviously devastated. They went on to do the work that they wanted to do. So we're speaking about, I'm telling you the story because in the first hour of the show, we're speaking about community involvement in addressing personal crises. And we're finding out the question, have you ever witnessed someone in distress and said nothing? Or you were too scared or nonchalant to intervene? So that's the conversation we're having in the first hour of today's show.
Wow. I mean, it's an interesting one. And sadly, especially gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it, everybody hears it, and for some reason, it's a difficult thing for people to intervene. I'm fascinated to hear about that conversation.
Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tepuho Likweleni and Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Tame Ngubeni talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique with Joël Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Mariamo Kumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia. 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Hotlines with Shailen Dikumana. 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones. On air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Hey guys, so it's about 30 minutes before we have to go onto the show and go live, and we're just having our own little briefing session with the team. We've got our producer in the background, Mmatsheko. We've got my amazing co-host, Mmatsheko Mosito.
Also, I'm not amazing.
We've got Mmatsheko that side. And we just, just getting our ducks in a row for the show. Once we go live, there's no turning back. You make mistakes, you make them on air, but we try our best to prepare and ensure that we don't do that when we go on. And when we do, we laugh about it, guys. We're only human. But this is how it looks like when we're just getting ready for the show. Enjoy. Here we go. Mix. Let's go. Come on. Let the creative juices flow.
The tree, what's at the bottom of it?
The root.
Thank you. If I'm not excited, like I'm just sitting around, I have nothing to do.
Bored.
Thank you. If it's not mist, it's
mist.
Mist. If it's not mist in the morning, you can't see the road. It's like a cloud.
Bright and early in the morning.
Like
sometimes your brain experiences.
It rhymes with dog. Thank you. I don't know this one.
Which one is this one, guys? Hi, guys, come on.
What is this? When I'm doing this, thank you. Yeah, no, yeah. You're so
funny.
Thank you.
Alright.
Nice and easy, clean. Don't forget what caught your eye at 22.
Yes.
And then, yeah, we're good.
Fantastic.
23, my love.
Oh, okay. Show your name on that.
Rekenika intro ile. Yeah.
Go.
Time. Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Thank you for your patience and for your grace. Coming through with wonderful music from Senegal. You also heard some sounds from the DRC with Fali Ipupa coming through with Bloc Parole. Bloc Parole. I hope I'm saying it correctly. Thank you for being here. This is Planting the Seed, Reviving the Culture and Agriculture, and this is us every single Sunday until 2 p.m. in Central African Time. So, as promised, in this hour, we are going to be turning our attention to a critical issue that deeply affects livestock farmers across the African region, foot and mouth disease, commonly known as FMD. And this highly contagious viral disease affects cloven-hooved animals such as cattle. It also affects pigs, sheep, goats, with devastating impacts on animal health, dairy productivity, and international trade. So I thought we'd rope in a good friend of the show, Dr. Wanjau, who is a vet by profession, but also a dairy specialist. I thought it would be wonderful for him to come on as we really try and understand the science around this disease, the risks, the strategies, and also preventative measures to control it, which is so significant at this time. So he's joining me via the line. He's very seasoned. And he's been doing this for many years, working in the front lines of livestock health and disease management as well. So he knows a lot around this conversation that we're about to have. Dr. Wanjau, a pleasure to have you back on Channel Africa. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mosito, and I'm happy to be back on the Channel Africa again, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. I think perhaps let's start there. I did mention a little bit about some of the animals that are sort of susceptible or are at risk of getting foot and mouth disease. But please give us an exact definition, in terms of exactly how foot and mouth disease affects dairy animals specifically.
So let's talk about the FMD. So many people hear about FMD, and FMD is foot and mouth disease that affects the animals that you already listed, the cattle, the sheep, the goats, and pigs. So why do we call it the foot and mouth? Basically, it affects the foot or the clawed feet of the animals, and always the mouth of the animal. So basically, you have the causative agent. It's a virus. That is a virus, the causative agent of the FMD. So, and this virus comes in different serotypes. So, serotypes, it's the causative agent that cause the FMD. So, there are different serotypes that cause the FMD. We have the serotypes A, we have O, we have C, we have SAT1, SAT2, and SAT3, and ASIA1. So those are the serotypes that you can, after the test, you can find they cause the FMD. So, and that serotype, they come from different economic regions or different regions in Africa or in the world. So, and the causative agent, they can lead to the transmission. So we have how the FMD can be transmitted from one animal to the other or from one country to the other. So on the cross border, so the transmission can come through direct transmission. Okay, that is direct transmission with the infected animals. Number two, we have secretions such as saliva, milk, urine, even blood. And number three, we have aerosol droplets. These are the air when that house breathe or through the saliva, through sneezing, spread to another cow. And number four, it can be spread through mechanical vectors. When we talk about mechanical vectors, we talk about birds, we talk about dogs, we talk about even people or run. Those are the mechanical vectors. These, especially when the cows are grazing across borders, maybe you can find on certain areas the cows are infected. In the other areas, the cows are not infected. So you find that we can have mechanical vectors that can transmit the disease. So basically Mosito and the listeners who are listening, we always have the main clinical signs that you can notice whether your animals or your livestock are suffering from FMD. Okay, so as I list the clinical signs, these are the most important clinical signs that you can be able to differentiate from other diseases. Number one is about fever, as you can have a thermometer that you can take the temperature from your livestock. So fever can go up to 41.7 degrees. Then number two, we have vesicles. As I said earlier, the disease affects the mouth.
Dr. Wanjau?
The fever. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. We really are battling with your line. It's quite hollow. I don't know if you can move to a room where there's just less echo, and we will phone you back. That is the voice of Dr. Wanjau, who is a vet by profession, also a dairy specialist in the Kenyan region. And we are talking about FMD, foot and mouth disease, what exactly it is, how it affects animals, and we're going to unpack other really, really important frequently asked questions. It's 1:15 p.m.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So when you think of African music, you think of kwasa kwasa, high life music from West Africa, Afrobeat from West Africa, of gospel music or faith music or spiritual music. But when we think of reggae music, we go to the Caribbean, and if it's Africa, we only think about Lucky Dube. Well, I'm here to introduce you to some reggae music from Africa. Salif Keita with Dakan Faye from Mali, and I must say this one was a real shock for me because I never had imagined Salif Keita on a reggae beat, but listening to him, it just proved to me how versatile he is as an artist, because you'd be expecting him to be on that vibe of West Africa, of ballads, but he really proved that he is very versatile, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, what do you do?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa 1. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa 1. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
All right, 16 minutes past 1 p.m. in Central African time, in conversation with Dr. Wanjau in his capacity as a vet and a dairy specialist in the Kenyan region. But we really are talking about the important issue of foot and mouth disease, commonly known as FMD. It's a very contagious disease, right? And the doctor's just giving us an explanation as to what this disease is and how it actually affects animals, particularly those that are, hooved, as it were. So we're looking at that, and we're going to unpack other questions. Doc, you back on the line with us?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, perhaps following, your explanation on the disease, how it affects dairy animals in particular, let's talk about how FMD is transmitted between the animals, because it is highly contagious. So what are some of the early warning signs that farmers should be looking out for?
So, Mosito, thanks again. And as I listed the signs that we always look, and the transmission or how the disease, the FMD, can be transmitted from one animal to the other, basically from maybe from the borders or not borders, maybe from one animal to the other during in the farm. So we have direct transmission with infected animals. So the animals can infect another animal through the saliva when maybe they are feeding, okay, milk maybe to the young animals through urine. There are animals that tend to drink urine from other animals, okay. So that's one. Number two, there are secretions such as blood. Maybe there's some injuries on the animal. There's like the secretions such as said, saliva and urine. And another thing is also droplets through the air. When the animal coughs or sneezes and it releases the droplets to the air. So that can lead to affect another animal or to spread the disease. Another transmission is mechanical vectors. Okay, mechanical vectors are like the birds, the silage, the nindos, the dogs that can carry. They can act like a transmitter of FMD. So maybe Mosito, I hope maybe you have another questions on that.
I do indeed. I do. I think this is just such a big topic. And, for those that want to really grow, whether you're a mixed farmer or you are purely livestock, I think there's just certain fundamentals that we need to understand. And I think this conversation will matter particularly to those that are kind of self-taught in the space of livestock farming. So in understanding what FMD is and all the frequently asked questions coming through, and we've got Dr. Wanjao to answer them for us. So Doc, following what you are saying, let's talk about what the short and long-term effects of this disease are, particularly on milk production and the overall health of the herd, if I could put it that way.
So thanks again, Mosito. Before I go to that impact on milk or the dairy sector, I just want to touch on the clinical science that a farmer or a vet can notice when it comes to FMD. Those are clinical science. These are typically the clinical signs, and they're very important when it comes to diagnosis of the FMD. So we have a fever that goes up to 41.7 degrees, that fever. Number two, we have vesicles on the mouth, tongue, ribs. When you just open the mouth of the livestock, maybe a cow, you find vesicles on the lips and the tongue, and again you find that you're going to have between the hooves, you're going to have vesicles between the hooves, the two hooves of maybe the cows. You're going to see the vesicles. Number three is we can talk about excessive salivation, or what we call drooling, like when the animal is eating or when it is studying. You always find the animals tend to drool or to pour saliva that flows from the mouth. That is due to the vesicles or the vesicles that are found in the mouth and the tongue. So the animal does not correctly swallow the salivas. Number four, you find that your animal is lame because of the hooves that is found on the lesions on the feet. And another one is the loss of appetite and decreased milk production. I guess maybe I've explained correctly.
Talk to us about how it's diagnosed, because if it spreads this quickly, I'm just really wondering about diagnosis and what are some of the steps that a farmer should take immediately as soon as they suspect that there could be an outbreak.
So number one is about you provide biosecurity. That's a biosecurity where you always isolate the sick animals, and on early detection, you always isolate the sick, where you put the affected animal on its own barn, so that you can give it treatment. Number three is about vaccination. When basically you notice that your animals are affected with FMD, you can give them vaccination. So you tend to do the quick vaccination so that the disease cannot be passed to the unaffected animals, Mosito.
Okay. And how does this then affect human beings, Doc? If I'm the farmer that's working on there or whatever the case is, let's talk about human transmission of the disease from animal to human being.
So the transmission basically may be through the milk when you just consume the milk from the infected animal. You can have complications when you just drink that milk. Again, when you just consume that meat, still it can affect your body or your health status. So those different things about consumption of infected parts or milk from the animals.
Okay. All right. Still in conversation with Dr. Wanjau, and he is talking to us about FMD, diagnosis, what it is, how to look out for it. I think if you're a farmer, this is very, very important information. Let's talk about how outbreaks affect the economy. Okay, this is a very, very important one, especially for small scale and emerging dairy farmers.
So again, Mosito, you have the impact that the FMD can bring to the farmers or the small-scale farmers. Number one is economic losses. You find that your animals tend to die, so there is economic loss. You can find that the whole of your herd have been wiped out by FMD. Then again, we can have trade disruptions. You find that you cannot trade or you cannot sell your meat to your outlet. So there's that prohibition because you can't sell infected animals or infected animals that have FMD. So there's that trade disruptions. And number three, there's that cost due to control. You spend a lot of money when your animals or your herd are infected with FMD. Okay.
All right, Doc. It sounds like a very complex, disease to manage. Because if you don't really know much about what to do and you've got a whole herd of cattle, for example, it can be quite challenging. So let's talk about the perspective of the farmer, okay? So I'm a farmer. I've got a herd of cattle. I suspect that there may be an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, or perhaps let me ask it this way. I want to prevent foot and mouth disease. Firstly, is that possible? And if it is, what are some of just the preventative measures that I can take?
So one way you can prevent the FMD is regular vaccinations of your herd. So you keep vaccinations of your herd. That's number one. Number two, you can have the biosecurity. Like you're able, where you are just keeping your animals, you are fencing the area that your livestock live in, so that maybe the stray dogs or does not come through. So you can have that biosecurity. And again, biosecurity comes with ensuring that you have footbaths or the vehicle baths, that when the vehicles or people that are entering in your farm, they are footbaths that the people pass through, all the vehicles pass through, in order to prevent as I said, the mechanical vectors from transmitting this disease.
All right. Okay, Doc. Tell us just a little bit about just perhaps the latest technology, if I could put it that way. Some of the innovative ways that African people and African professionals like yourself, as a veterinary doctor, I think, if I could say the full term, and also just your work in dairy farming and as a specialist. What are some of the innovative ways that you're seeing the space of medicine or animal medicine, if I could call it that? How is that shifting and changing how we manage disease of livestock?
So that's a very important question. So the impact on technology, what we always take the blood smears. Maybe once in a while, we always take the blood smears from our animals so that we can take to the lab, or we can have our lab then test whether we have the celiotype that, like I said, so that you can be able to know maybe before the outbreak whether your animals, maybe one or randomly, whether you could have an FMD. Again, we keep surveillance due to maybe the installation of maybe CCTV, and we always check whether the people that come to our farm or to my farm, whether they have just passed through the footpath or the vehicles that come, and we always insist that you have the biosecurity measures, so that maybe you can prevent where you can where the spread of FMD you can get to your farm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the important thing is about a surveillance. So you keep high surveillance on your herd or in your farm. Again, you have randomly, maybe you can take your blood smears to the lab so that maybe you can just test to see whether maybe your animals could infest the FMD.
Okay. Following just some of the things that you've given example of, perhaps an extension of talking about protocols, what other protocols can you share for preventing outbreaks on the farms in particular? Is there anything we can do to prevent this disease, especially in communal or high movement livestock areas, because every farm is different?
So when it comes to the communal, to the high farms or the movement, so you make sure that when you are just introducing your cattle or your livestock to your farm, or when you're just taking to you are just buying from one farm to the other, so it's good to isolate that livestock, put in a different barn for maybe 7 days or 14 days. So that you can just make sure that your animals, all the livestock is free from FMD. Like I said, when you just isolate the animals, we are going to observe the animals, whether maybe it can have FMD or other diseases. And again, you can just ask for certificate where you are buying your livestock, or how soon did they vaccinate for FMD, so that you can make arrangement to vaccinate against FMD. So it is good to know where you are just sourcing your animals, and maybe to take the history where you're just buying the livestock, so that you can prevent from buying animals which are not vaccinated against FMD, and maybe introducing to your farm, and this may cause the spread of FMD mosquito.
It's a big topic. Yeah, it's a big topic. It's a big discussion. I think, really for me, as we about to wrap up, Doc, for anyone that's listening, is just do your homework, whether you are new to livestock farming or you've been doing it for a long time. There are so many important things to always just be mindful of. Okay, so Doc, what's been happening with you? How's it going on the farm? Anything you'd like to update us on?
So on anything we on my farm, like I've said, we always provide quite much surveillance. Like I say, we have provided the CCTV. Again, we have automated milking machine that it's able to record each and every milk from different cows. And again, we are just starting to do the value addition. So Mosito, next time maybe I will send you my yogurts.
Oh, please send me your yogurt. I would love that. I would appreciate that so much. But also just on that note as well, around, just the distribution of dairy. There's also a lot of concern around African people not having enough access to dairy, especially young growing children who, as I understand, according to medical research, they need it the most. Because of their little growing bodies. So talk to me about just your thoughts around making dairy products more accessible, perhaps even growing the space of dairy farming on the African continent, and what is possible for us right now.
when it comes to daily farming as a global thing, so I always advise people that Mosito, you can't plant today and harvest tomorrow. So there is that time you give yourself for you to grow. And when you just give in instant in insemination, you always wait for 9 months for that calf to be delivered. So there is always that time that you give yourself to grow. So what do I mean by that? I always tell people that when you're just starting daily farming, it's not daily farming. It's not about you starting daily farming today and tomorrow you're just expecting you're expecting to have some cash. So it's a process. So I always advise farmers and the upcoming youths or even the elderly that you start with 1 cow, you start with 2 cows, and eventually, and each year, a cow is supposed to give birth. So each year, so when you're just starting with 2 cows or 3 cows each year, it gives you a calf. So by the end of 5 years or 4 years, you're going to have maybe 8 also animals. So when it comes to daily farming, I tell people it's not a quick lead scheme. It's a process where you start with 1 cow, you be patient, you be confident, and all them on the last part is you always you have that passion of regaling animals. Without passion, I always tell people that passion is the fuel that drives everything. So even if in daily farming, you always love animals.
You know, this is important. Thank you so much, Doc, for the time. I really appreciate it. Perhaps we can have a part 2 and really unpack the other important matters around dairy farming and livestock production of the African continent. But I guess when it comes to today's conversation and talking about foot and mouth disease, it really isn't just about animal health. It's also a matter of economics. It affects food security, you know, and there are just so many challenges when it comes to how this disease actually affects farmers and consumers alike. So thank you very much, Dr. Wanjau. It is always a pleasure. And I guess for those that have missed this conversation, it will be on podcast in the next 24 hours. Thank you so much once again. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Mosito, and thank you for having me. You can always call me at any given time. So yes. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanjau, joining us on the line as we unpack some frequently asked questions around foot and mouth disease.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. And deeply rooted in its heritage, it's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other: Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story. A living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story. A living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future.
The Republic of Congo was still Zaire. Candidate Nabiso Mobuto coming through, the title of the song. And of course, the artist is Franco and Letipi OK Jazz Lumumba Luambo, I beg your pardon, coming through, featured on that song as well. So in a double play with that one was Senegal's Thione Seck coming through with Yao, the title of the song. Thank you very much for joining us. We will have Dr. Wanjau's podcast on our respective page. So channelafrica.co.za/planting the seed to catch all the latest podcasts. We spoke to SA Harvest in recent days. So SA Harvest, the food rescue company in South Africa. We spoke to the Ubuntu, collective that is doing amazing work in terms of regreening the township spaces in the south of Johannesburg, in the southwestern townships of Johannesburg, as it were. thank you very much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to bring this agricultural programming to where you are. We're back again next week, making way now for the best sports show in the land. Always lots to talk about. The Sunday edition underway with Neto Chemani. He's already in his chairman's chair, ready to tell you what to expect.
A very good afternoon, MM, and a very good afternoon to all the Channel Africans. It is an exciting day of Africa at play. The Under-18, Under-20 Athletics Youth Championships are concluding today in the capital of Ogun State in Nigeria at a place called Abeokuta. We will be talking to the president of the Confederation of African Athletics, Hamad Kalkaba, to reflect to this event and also throw forward to upcoming events and the state of athletics on the African continent. We will double that conversation with a conversation with another president, the president of Kenyan Athletics, Jackson Tuwei, because his team did well in short distances. And as you know, East Africans, when it comes to athletics, they've got a big secret. Perhaps we are going to find out what is that secret, because it's not just about elite athletes. Even at youth level, East Africans still do well. We will be talking to another legend, Alex Bapela, former Mamelodi Sundowns and Bafana Bafana player, to touch base with him on our Legends Corner. And we will also be talking about our topic of the day, where we're talking about the importance of introducing kids to sport at a tender age. And we'll also be talking to another president, the president of South African Rugby Union, Mike Alexander, to congratulate the junior boxer. The Under-20 have done well, beating New Zealand 23-15 rather, yesterday at the Under-20 World Rugby Championships. Africa at play.
Yes, sir. Listen, we're waiting with breath that is bated. Is it safe to call Ogun State like a kingdom now? Because there's always something beautiful and progressive happening. You speak about athletics, the space of athletics. The other day, I noted a story by one of the kings there who has now dedicated himself to walking into classrooms and teaching children for free. So there are just so many beautiful things happening in that part of Nigeria. I think it's very inspiring.
We need to make a visit there and go grab the good spirit, because you don't get good people like that who are humanitarians, who are philanthropists, who are giving their lives for free at a price of what? Other people would have said nothing for mahala.
Right. Okay. So there we have it. Lots happening on the sports show. That is #Africa at Play. If you'd like to follow the space on social media, you can watch the show on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, follow the conversation at Channel Africa 1 on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Have a glorious rest of the Sunday. Keep it locked right here on Africa's favorite radio station as we bring you all things from an African perspective. Thank you to Tido Didi Malomagao for her TO work, technical operation. Thank you to Dumi Salema on social media, and the wonderful Gentlemen's Club that is holding it down on our audio streaming for Facebook and YouTube. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. See you again next week, Sunday.
For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people.